You remember a while back, it was a long time ago, I covered that data stuff around like basically like looking at census data around company types, the kinds of spend that they have against different roles within their organizations, the total payroll spend versus total revenue, that sort of stuff. You can go back and check it out if you want, and I'll maybe share the link. So what I wanted to do related to LangChain releasing their kind of and the fact that they've got these helper components where it's basically a generate agent, like a React agent kind of like helper function, is what I wanted to do was take that and build it into sort of like an agent universe where you could basically take these and then use the LangChain Cloud assistance function to customize different agents. So you could basically say, all right, I'm this kind of company and I want to spin up these kinds of agents using the Open Agent platform, but have it the back end just sort of like customize, or basically be customized using some of these helper functions. That was my intention. I only got so far, but I wanted to show it to you. This is sort of the actual idea. So it's basically like an agent universe where the dashboard, I might just open this properly so you can see it in an actual dashboard. And I'm building the app out in V0, and then I want to connect it to like a Supabase backend where it kind of auto generates a bunch of agents for us. So this is like an agent universe kind of thing. You can see like number of employees on the bottom, total revenue per employee on the vertical axis, and then like just a preview up here, right? It's just like, all right, who is this? Residential building construction, average firm size, 4 employees. Check that out. And then like filter it down to different segments and different sectors and stuff. So let's check out. What industry are you interested in disrupting today?
Say professional services.
Where would that be?
Is that an option?
Should be. I don't think this is a comprehensive list. Here we go. Other scientific, technical, and consulting, management consulting. This one. That's those guys. Good. Those guys need to go away. All right, sweet. And then from here, build it out kind of like the Vault. So we can see like these industries, this code, and then link it to average distribution of certain ONET like occupation types. Because you can actually get a benchmark of like for, say, management consulting services, what's the distribution of different roles that exist within that company based on survey data. So that you can actually get a sense of like, all right, of the total revenue per employee and the total employees, what's the distribution percentage of different roles within that company? They actually have that and they publish it, like the census data is published on that as a percentage. So basically you can say, all right, I want to build an agentic organization that's going to take on management consulting. Or even if you are a management consulting company, how can I adopt more agentic workflows into my organization? The next step I want to build into this is basically like a service design flow, and then take that and say, well, I can spin up this sequence of agents and these component parts of a management consulting firm. So I'm going to do that with this like LangChain release and see what it's like. Maybe we'll just like blow through our budget on Langsmith when I do this. And then you could basically just say, all right, one-click deploy, and there'd be more advanced agents that actually take on some of these component parts and actually connect into the standard connectors that these organizations use. Kind of like the OpenAI agent builder, but actually useful.
So you're thinking you'd have like a base template or something that defines, like a lot of the sub agents and other things we've talked about. At the simplest level, it's like a description, system prompt, and tools for the agents. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking of also using the Deep Agents kind of starter. Because you're right, at its core, a bunch of them are just like, this is this labs area. A bunch of them are just like, search. Where is the overview? Deep Agents. Here. Yeah, a planning tool, sub agents, file system, detailed prompt, and then a couple of tools, basically web search and a bunch of different component parts. There might be requirements for like a Python data analysis kind of container, some of those sorts of things. But start with this and have each of them be like a deep agent that has the ability to sort of like iterate on itself based on a brief that comes down from this environment here. Because these guys have set up this tool with these new kind of component parts, I was thinking of using just this one or maybe also you could then deploy an OpenSUI as well if you wanted some developers, which is kind of cool. Maybe you can help me with this.
Yeah, we should collaborate because working on similar things with templatized deep agents, React agents, etc., deploying on Cloudflare, as you guessed. But
What
yeah,
I Yeah. What I really want to know is like, or how close you could get to say, and using like ChatGPT 5 with the extended thinking component and then briefing it with basically a brief that says for each of these industry codes, I give it like a couple of the stats on like the actual kind of profile of this industry. This is all US based data. How close could you get to a strong reflection of like the actual way that those companies create value and identify the component parts that could be converted from services into software effectively in really solid workflows that are a real reflection of what could be achieved? So for example, in residential building and construction, this one, right? Like we don't have Optimus yet. There's only component parts of that can be executed of that kind of organizational structure. Try and get that to be automated so that you could say, right, well, for this kind of company, this is the way that it would come together. And here is the brief, and then push that in a workflow from that like output into a Claude Code or a OpenSUI or like a Codex kind of generation of that, customizing the deep agent template. Like how close could you get to some sort of automated flow like that? So people could look at it and say, like someone who works in residential building and construction could actually look at it and go, yes, I could deploy that because that's a great reflection of actually how my business runs today, in that like I need agents that can automatically create plans and designs that are compliant with the local building codes. That's an automated component that could go to an agent, and then that agent could then be hooked into my just a simple email engine, and then potentially build my project plans and manage my demand planning around my staff and my contractors for my different projects. Like those are agents that would pop out if it was done well.
yeah,
And I want to do that for like all of these. So these, like every single one of these bubbles.
yeah. And I don't know if it would apply exactly, but when we talked about the Cloudflare Vibe SDK,
Mm.
those are the types of use cases that I saw where it's like, yeah, this is an example toy app. But if you applied that kind of idea where you can chat with an agent that has context using your own defined templates, data sources, etc., then you could easily build something like that, I think. And I don't know if that's the answer, but that's where I saw
I
the
was also,
Cloudflare stuff.
yeah, well, and a couple of things on this. So I was looking at the LangChain guys published a blog post about benchmarking Claude's ability to write like LangGraph and LangChain kind of apps, right? So they were trying to benchmark like, well, how could you make it better at doing that stuff? So I want to look at that because like optimizing into the language and into the packages and into the execution is important. But could you just make it like, all right, clone the deep agent like package and then like spin that up? That's one. Or could it just be you have a generic enough one and then you go into say LangGraph Cloud, like the cloud hosted thing, and just say, create me an assistant, a sub assistant, the assistance function where it's like, all right, I've got my planner agent that's good at project management. All I need to do is customize it for the construction industry, and that might be good enough as long as it gets the right tools. It might just be enough to just say, give me a great little prompt. It might just be prompt engineering, right? Which will be way faster because then all we'd have to do is just have the same one, creates a sub assistant and then hooks it in. The other thing that is this OpenSUI. I don't know if you played much with this OpenSUI thing that the guys released from LangChain at all. Like, I was looking at that again. It is awesome. Like, in terms of the scope of what it achieves, it's pretty impressive. Like,
It is. It's
yeah,
really cool interface and the workflow and everything. The reason I don't is because you have to use the APIs, and now we're so spoiled with Claude Code and stuff. But I was generating code and it was getting pretty expensive.
right. Well, what I was thinking is sort of like this could be the endpoint. So like it goes in here and the OpenSUI generates like the custom code.
Right.
Was the main thing. But just because it's built on top of LangChain doesn't necessarily mean it's good at building LangChain and LangGraph apps.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to me. I mean, there's so many options, and like I could think of so many ways to do that now. And it's funny that I don't know, a year ago or so, you ask people like, how do I, deploy agents in the cloud and have interconnectivity between them? And it was like no answers then. And now it's overabundance of ways to do this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There's too many to choose from. But I know I probably won't be choosing the OpenAI one. AI one.